This is a follow-up to my solution video. The solution to our issue, the solution to our problem, our current issue of us being prisoners under this, what I would say, dark realm, controlled realm. I've gotten feedback from several people over the past few months, as well as my own experiences, and I've kind of come to the conclusion that it's not only just being within either a glimpse state or your psychological state to draw back the energy. It's also got to do with once you've achieved those goals several or many times, you get the feel of kind of what your state of being is when you're absorbing this energy. And on my last video, or one of my last videos, I mentioned something about like tentacles coming from me that I would use to connect with either the darkness or whatever to absorb that energy from them, and it does have an effect on them. So I utilized that whole kind of a tentacle type of a scenario in my mind when I'm in my waking state, because it's very easy for your mind to drift from one state to another. I mean, it can be almost instantly. Like within the glimpse state, there was many times that I would just stop and go to think about something, and I was in that state immediately. So you don't necessarily have to be completely, sitting in this chair and only doing it this time. You can do it at other times when you're kind of just like in a waiting room, or you're laying in bed before you go to sleep or after you go to sleep, or you're just sitting in a chair, or maybe even walking. Sometimes, you can just kind of get into that state. You can put yourself in that state anytime you want after you've had experience with it and understand, how it works. And you can utilize that along with your waking consciousness. And so if you're going to absorb energy from things, you can look at it this way. You don't necessarily have to go somewhere to find these either dark beings or whatever. If you understand that we're all we occupy the same space. So if, like I said before, if the earth is here, then the astral is right here, and then there's the planes that just kind of stack over it. So they're all in the same space. You can locate something just through utilizing your imagination and your and basically utilizing your visualization skills. You can kind of figure out where things are located sometimes, or you can just connect with them and just imagine what they would look like and connect with them at these states. So you don't, like I said, you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to travel. It's right here. And you can imagine they're probably around us at all times. Just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. And some people are sensitive enough to understand or to know where they're at, or at least feel them around them. At that point, you can react to them. And another thing is, if you want to connect with things like the earth, there's ley lines in the earth. You don't have to necessarily know where they're at. You can connect with the sun. You can connect with other things. You can connect with, even if you connected with something mid-air, most likely on some level, there are things that are there that we just can't see, because there's more out there that we can't see than what we can see, because all these different levels are right here. So there could be just a massive amount of activity happening, even if you're sitting in an empty room by yourself. So we don't have to necessarily know exactly where everything is at, but we can kind of get an idea and start reacting and acting upon it. And when you do, then you start to be able to, it's like building an antenna. And then you get this huge antenna, you can pick up all these different signals, but you got to tune the antenna. Well, what you're doing is you're putting your antenna out there, and you're tuning that antenna to start to pick up on things. And until you put forth the effort of doing it, you're not going to know about it. And as soon as I began going through this process of, of taking back the energy, I learn as I'm going. I experience other things. Things pop into my head and go, oh, we could do it this way. I could use this, utilize this. And when I make a connection with something, generally there's an effect somewhere. So I know, okay, well, yes, that works. So I'll do it again and I'll do it again to verify the effect is the same. So you can connect with other things because you're not physically connecting with it. And people say, well, what's the difference between good and bad energy? The energy is energy. There is no good, there is no bad. Excuse me. Our physical human perspective on things is either chooses good or bad or dark or light. We choose that. When you're in these other states, there doesn't seem to be that type of understanding. It's a little bit different. But we have to choose it here because we have to pick sides as humans, and the way this whole place is set up, it's set up as a trap. So you're going to pick sides, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. You're going to think of things the way like I tell people, the darkness that surrounds us. What I would say if it's evil or bad, not really, because if you look at it as predator and prey, are you going to blame a wolf for attacking a sheep because it's hungry? I mean, that's the basis of it, you know. And at some point, a bear could attack that wolf. So would you blame the wolf for being a predator, or would you blame the bear for being a predator? So, you know, it's all about perspective. So I'm not looking at things about, oh, this is our enemy, this isn't our enemy, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at it as this is our situation, and we need to do what is good for us because every other being is doing what's good for them. Now, I'm not saying don't help other maybe things out. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is we have to at some point work for ourselves. And if it's not important to you, then you're not going to do it anyways. It doesn't matter. But it's important to me, and there's a lot of people out there that it's important to. And they're learning from the process. And that's why I'm getting this feedback. And that's why I'm giving this feedback, because I'm learning along with you. So as we go along here, there's things that are going to pop up, there's things that are going to happen. So no, there is no good or bad energy. If you're absorbing energy from something you would consider bad, that's not going to make you bad. Now, if you aren't in control of yourself, you might be affected at some other level just by being in the presence of that, but not by sucking in their energy. By being in the presence of something you would consider bad, you're going to allow it to affect you on some kind of a physical level. You can't be like that. Don't think like that. Think like you're going there to do a job. You're not going to be affected by just like it's no different from being affected by the drama here in life or being manipulated by people here. It's the same thing. So what you have to do is you kind of have to encase yourself in, I'm going here to do a job. This is what I'm focused on. I'm not focused on buying into any of the BS or buying into the beliefs that bad, good, all this stuff is going to affect me. No, I'm not going to fear that. If you fear something, then it can potentially affect you. Don't fear anything. Go in there, do your job, come back. You'll understand what you're doing after some time. But put yourself out there and do it. And if you do that, then you're going to see results. You're going to say, hey, well, I could connect with this. I can connect with this. Another question is if you're in a scenario and some being or whatever it is going to offer some, help or whatever, or they don't seem like they're threatening, that's fine. And the one person in their situation, they were utilizing pulling energy from that scenario where there was supposedly a friendly being, and then it switched the whole production into something else. Well, this is what I found. This is in the dream state, and this could be in any state. If you're in, say, there's a semi-friendly being or whatever, and you're in a town, and they look like a person or look like something else, non-threatening, and suddenly you decide to pull some energy from the background, or you decide that, hey, there's something different here. So what you're doing is you're changing the scenario. You're putting thought into it, and then you're also not buying into it or absorbing energy from there. And when you do things to change the production will change and flip. And then you might see a completely different scenario. It's like, okay, I was in the house of this being or with his family, and the next thing I know, I'm trapped in a black warehouse and I'm tied to a chair. Okay, that's your original situation. The illusion has been over. The production, your real situation is being in the chair in the black warehouse tied to a chair. That's where you're really at. But they're showing you this illusion, like the daydream state, where you have the daydream and your consciousness is stuck watching that, and the subconscious is working back here. What it is it's showing you, like in the dream state, it's showing you this illusion that you're in a room or talking to this friendly being when you're trapped in a warehouse. And when you begin to affect that illusion, it all opens up and shows you what your real situation is. So now you're in that situation, you can deal with that because you've pierced the illusion. And once it's like popping a balloon, it's like, oh, this beautiful balloon you're looking at. As soon as you pierce that, then you get to see what's behind there, what's really happening, the real production. It's not the play anymore. You're in the production. You get to see where you're at. So that's another thing I wanted to bring up. It's very important. Don't always believe where you're at if it's got to do with other beings or you're in another place, because they create their own appearances, and they create the whole background landscape. It's like, inviting an alien somewhere, and then you're on a movie set and you're all dressed up to and you've got this huge billion-dollar home, and look like you're all rich and you're powerful. Well, that's all the alien sees, so he buys into it. But if he were to walk back behind the props to see what was going on, then he would know that was an illusion. Well, we have these illusions all the time presented to us. And that's what keeps people have NDEs and have one-off or a few experiences. They buy into it because it looks like they're seeing the play. They're not seeing the production behind the play. They're not seeing the reality of the situation. They're only seeing the icing on the cake. They're not seeing somebody putting all the ingredients together. So that's where we're at. And as always, I'm here to promote others to join us in doing what we're doing. Because eventually we will have an effect. We're probably having an effect on it now. But I do know that there is an effect to it. Because what's happening is we are affecting the system. And we can tell and we can feel it. And we're learning from it. So we're creators. We're really creators. We're not this human bullshit scenario. We have the ability to change things and to create things. And we're getting back to those roots. But the first thing we need to do is get rid of this creation that's imprisoning us. And we're going through the motions of that. And as we're doing this, we're learning. We're experiencing things that we were never taught or even believed. And that is the plan. The solution is preparing ourselves and dismantling this system. And it all works together. It all just fits together like a puzzle. But in order for us to do it, we have to learn what we're capable of, or at least some of our capabilities. But this is where the rubber hits the road. A lot of times people still ask me about the astral and stuff. The astral's not going to get you anywhere. The astral is just another cell phone or TV show or whatever. It's just going to keep you in the mix, back in the cycle. It's not going to give you any information. You may be able to use it for certain things, but you're not going to be able to break out of anything. Like I said, the earth is a prison and the astral is a prison yard. It's not going to get you further. It's going to keep you still within this bubble. What I'm trying to do is completely destroy the bubble, the whole entire bubble, and get us back to where we belong, and allow people to understand and to experience their own potential. And the more you understand, the more you experience it, the more you're willing to put forth the effort to go on with it. And people are learning. They are getting it. I knew they would. I knew you would. You're getting it. You are beginning to understand more what's going on and your potential. And that's what this is all about. It's not about me. It's about us.